So on the digital inclusion front, we're currently conducting a number of tech pilots and projects. We host or convene these meetings like we're having today to share information about technology and programs. And we also advocate for the needs and goals of older adults and adults with disabilities in San Francisco primarily.
I would like to introduce you to Christina Irving from the Family Caregiver Alliance, and she and the Family Caregiver Alliance have received a grant to work with Spanish-speaking caregivers. So over to you, Christina.
So thank you. This has been a great opportunity for us to be involved, because I think a lot of the other organizations that have received one of the grants are groups that were already doing some technology training, and this was very new for FCA. We work with family caregivers of older adults and people with dementia. So our clients really are those families who are providing care, a lot of it kind of hands-on, and really people who are providing a lot of very intense care to people with serious progressive illnesses. So again, dementia is most common, but also Parkinson's and stroke in older adults. So during COVID, like most of us, we were seeing a lot of our clients who did not have access to get online, were not able to join some of the programs as we transitioned them to virtual. And where we were noticing this mostly, or at least at the higher levels, was amongst our Spanish-speaking caregivers. We had an in-person support group for our Spanish-speaking clients. We would do our classes and workshops in person, and we were not seeing people join. So we tried to use phone instead of Zoom, and that just doesn't really allow people to fully connect. And we were concerned about kind of that increased isolation and loneliness of our caregivers. So what we were trying to do is, again, try and bring people up a little bit where they were better able to access online and virtual programming. And I'm sorry, there's sirens going down the street now. You hear some background noise. So we did an initial class on how to use Zoom, just to hopefully bring up those who had some of the technology access, who had a little bit of a better understanding of how to get online, just be able to quickly kind of move them along. And then we've actually been partnering with CTN to do a series of their kind of Home Connect program, but as a class, so that we were able to kind of bring together these caregivers. One of the challenges that has been for us is that we have not done technology training before. So it's been a learning experience for our staff as well as for our clients. How do we figure out what they actually need when they may not know what they need? They're not necessarily understanding, what type of Wi-Fi or internet do I need to be able to access Zoom and video? So when we were trying to ask questions, trying to ask it in a way that we could get that information from them when we were still kind of learning how to ask these questions. So it's been a learning process for both of us. But I think we're finally at a place where we have better understanding for this group that's moving through this program, really what their access needs are and how do we support them with that. So for some, we've purchased tablets for them. Others, it's Wi-Fi hotspots to be able to allow them to actually join video classes, again, participating in these classes with CTN, and some have needed a little bit more one-on-one help outside of kind of that group model because it's really been a little bit more challenging. So again, it's been a constant kind of iterative process of really making sure that we're giving them kind of those tools, both the physical tools and the knowledge to be able to join these programs. Our hope was that with doing it as a class, that in addition to them all learning, we're really trying to foster some of those connections. We've seen such strength in our support groups and our classes with caregivers who really make these long-standing connections outside of just when we are initiating programming. So we're trying to encourage that both through the technology training and then, getting them more involved with the support groups that we're running or the classes on things like self-care, dementia, so that they're getting both the technology tools and some of the caregiver support tools as well. So it's been a work in progress, but I think we have a group now that is really, they now have the devices or the Wi-Fi in place. They're getting the training. So we're seeing a little bit more of that confidence, hopefully, and being able to actually access virtual programs on Zoom. And that's, again, programming for us, but also telehealth, being able to see their doctor or the person they're caring for's doctor. So I think there's a lot of really good long-term benefits, but it's a group that has been very high need just in terms of lack of access and lack of tools. So they're starting from a really very basic level of technology access. And there's also the added challenge of they are caregiving. We had one person who had to miss the first class because her husband went into the hospital. Others where they're caring for someone with dementia and do they have to step away? And we see that in our programming pretty regularly, but it just creates an additional challenge when people are trying to learn. Of some of the clients that we're working with right now, we have, one who's a 59-year-old woman caring for her 89-year-old mom with dementia, a 72-year-old woman caring for a 97-year-old mom with, multiple chronic health issues. And we have an 85-year-old man who's caring for his 91-year-old wife with dementia. And so he's one of the people participating in this. And so for him to be able to hopefully talk with the doctor, to join classes, he's one who's needed a little bit more one-on-one help, but is very interested in wanting to do this, seeing the long-term need for it just because of the challenges of really being able to get out on a regular basis. I think COVID really highlighted those challenges of people being able to work in person and meet in person, but that's actually an ongoing challenge a lot of times for caregivers, because for them to go out to in-person classes, they need to have somebody often providing respite care for their loved one. So even if things with COVID hopefully continue to get better, we really see this as a good benefit for clients, and this has allowed us to provide a little bit more kind of intensive support around the technology, because it really is a group also that we were not able to connect them to existing programs. We know there's some wonderful classes that are open just broadly to the community, and it's hard for people to sometimes make those connections to a new organization or a new program. So it's really taken a lot more one-on-one support. So our family consultant, Adriana Sanchez, who speaks Spanish, most of these are her clients. She's really had to do a lot of kind of one-on-one support to get people kind of through this process. And then again, with the help from CTN, who's been very patient with us, again, trying to learn as an organization, how do we best support our clients and facilitate these connections. But yeah, we've got the classes starting. People have their devices now. They've got their technology tools. So I'm hoping by the time we get through this, that we'll see them be more comfortable with that and really then participating in some of the other kind of group programming as well.
Well, others might have questions, but I do want to jump in. I know that you and I have talked, Christina, and one of the things that came up is that even post-pandemic, if there is such a thing, this will likely need to continue at Family Caregiver Alliance. Is that correct?
I think so. We've always done a little bit of online program webinars and things, but most of our focus really was in person. And we're seeing this benefit of it being online just for the accessibility and the ease of caregivers. So we want to continue to be able to do this long term, probably a little bit more of a hybrid model where some things are in person, but I think, yes, this is a long-term need, and I think a huge benefit for caregivers when they can't always get away. I think this really makes it easier for those who just can't get out of the house that comfortably. So this has, I think, kind of been a model for us to figure out, okay, COVID was the push. What does this look like longer term? And as we're seeing things come down from the state with they call it their chat program, where there's potentially some of the counties are able to provide tablets to older adults. And I think this has helped us figure out, should there be those opportunities in some of the other counties? How did this work in San Francisco? And is that something that we might be able to replicate for kind of our broader service area? Our office is in the city, but we serve 6 counties. So we've got clients kind of across the Bay Area.
Just curious, how many languages are you addressing within your kind of population of caregivers?
So in general, so obviously this project we focused on Spanish speaking. We have staff who speak Cantonese, Mandarin, and Tagalog. So we generally kind of those areas directly with our staff, and then language line when needed. We translate some of our materials also into Vietnamese and Russian. So we've got materials translated into more languages than we have staff capacity.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So we thought about when this grant came up, we looked at, do we do it in multiple languages? Do we just focus on one? Is it Spanish? Is it Chinese? And we started with our Spanish speaking caregivers.